Hello. Almost Shabbat Shalom. Perfect spot. You can see everything, but not be affected by the wind. So let's see who is here. Okay. So wonderful, wonderful day. It is a blessing every day to remember. Remember. Yeah. So every week is the same. Hey, David. Like me? Yeah. You're here. Well, you're here. It's great that you're here. It's wonderful to have you, David. Great showing. So, Parashat Nasso, you know, it's interesting. Every week, in some way, some form of the other, we end up talking about really the importance of how we look at ourselves, in one shape or the other. How do we talk to ourselves? How do we refer to ourselves? How do we think about, what do we think about ourselves? Just like the famous experiment with water of Masaru Emoto, the Japanese professor that had the water experiment, right? That one group that spoke positively to the water produced this wonderfully beautiful geometrical shapes, and the other group of water that produced just a brown splat. So if we are more than 80% water, how do we talk with ourselves, and what do we create within our own ecosystem that produces what it produces? And so what comes out of us, the question is, what's the breeding ground for who we are, right? And are we affected by others, by external, or are we allowing ourselves to be driven from the inside? So we always look at how we are with ourselves and in relation to others. There's always this ping pong in one shape, form, or the other, and it is the relationships. So this portion, and relationships, is not only relationships between me to you, but also what is my relationship to what is happening here, regardless of what the subject is. So this portion, Nasa, is coming right after the last week. The Israelites received the Torah in Mount Sinai. This magnificent, this big event, this event of such a magnitude, and yet it was hosted on the smallest mountain in the desert Sinai, and in the desert, the vastness, the wilderness, right? So when the chapters were put together, how the chapters are put together in the Torah, we look at, interesting that the two portions that are from last week and the week before, really dealing with numbers, with counting. Counting of the people. And this is a great lesson that I see every day, that is a tool to remember our greatness and our oneness. Because what we see, especially after this Quranic era, what we see that is happening is in our world and in society and between us and ourselves, is really the level of mental well-being needs a lot of attention. Right? This needs a lot of attention. So one of the biggest things is the self-esteem. Self-esteem of oneself in this whole mix, and this whole mix, and so this when somebody is in this place where the Torah is referring to, and what we can refer to remember when we come to these dips in the, we're driving the highway and suddenly there is a manhole, boom, you know, is to remember that in creation, in really the the movie that we are again a part of where we are now, really that everybody is the same. If we look at our spiritual journey, we are souls. We are here on different paths. Each one has a different path. Each one has a different crayon box to paint their own painting, to paint their own road or map, or maybe no map, or do their own creation. And each one of us goes through certain experiences that are unique for that person. So when somebody is, for example, jealous of somebody, I mean, you don't know really what you're jealous of, because there's a whole package that goes with that person that brought him to that place. And so when somebody feels down, or on the contrary, when somebody feels that they're a little too above themselves, is to remember that at the end of the game, or at the end of the scene, let's put it, we are a scene. Our life is a scene in a grand movie. So at the end of the scene, we all go back to the same box. We all came here from the same spiritual tribes. We all came here to connect and to heal patterns and to heal karmic connections and to create new connections and to create connections from a healthy place and not from a place that is wounded, not from a place that comes from a need. Because when we are in that place, we are overcome by what is the outside, what is available for me, what do I feel like? I feel this. No, I feel this. I feel that. You know, right? So there is a lot of that, and to remember that we are all one. And when we remember that we are all one, our power is the greatest, because then we become one. When talking in the Torah, when he was talking about the travel of the Israelites, and then when they came to Mount Sinai, he says Vayichan, talking in the Israelites and the entire population as singular, one, as one whole, as one heart, as one whole. That is what it is referred to. When we are in that place, when we understand that, for example, if I by accident I was hammering a nail on the wall, and by accident I hammered my thumb. It's painful, right? So what, is my left hand going to take the hammer and hit the right hand? Because no, why? I'm not going to hit myself. Why? Because we're the same. It's one. It's the same thing. And when we realize that we are, and there are people, but there are, again, there are people that do different things, and different things that are inexplicable, and it is for us to put our effort to cleanse in whatever way is possible, to cleanse. But when we realize that, and we come from that place, not from a place of fear, isolation, power over somebody. Right? The Torah is not talking about recognizing your own power as power over somebody, rather than your own gifts power, your own creation power, your glory, your spark. That through you, anything that you do serves others and serves those who need to hear that at that particular moment in time. This is what I call the kissing points of our synchronicities. When we come together and we see people and we know that this connection was supposed to be made because all the signs up to that moment led to it. That means that we have been listening to our intuition, we've been listening to our guidance, we've been listening to our body, to our spirit, to our mind, we've been listening, we've been in tune, and then we came together and we created something new, like the two circles, the Venn diagram, create something new in the middle. And that can be built on something that we're familiar with, patterns, wounds, or if we are in a good and healed place, creating something new that is not based on any other person's experience, patterns. So this portion is really about reminding, count everyone. So that person who feels that he's not good enough, that person feels that he's not that great, to remember that it doesn't matter in the eye of the creation or God, if you will, or anyhow that you are connected to, whatever makes meaning to you, that when you are in that place, remember that in the eyes of creation, everybody is the same. It was in the, I think, the 40s when Monopoly was invented. Yeah, I think around there, maybe earlier. But the point was, the point was that the creator wanted to show how we treat one another. How we treat one another when it comes to materialistic and all these kind of things. And it's interesting because when I loved Monopoly when I was a kid and growing up, it was fun because it was a never-ending game. It was always continuing. I loved being close to the main attraction, the bank, and it was addicting. You know, it's like it's addicting because it never ends. But what ends up happening is that in the game, if somebody doesn't have money to pay you, I want them to go to jail. Also, if it's a friend of mine, also if it's my family. And this is how we treat, for the most part, one another. When it comes to, I shouldn't say the most part, but many treat people bad because of power, because of money. It is the way of this world. And so remember that everybody is the same. This is a starting point. This is a starting point. This is a starting point to start recognizing that each one is unique. Every one of us is unique. Everyone has their own reason, their own calling, their own meaning. There are the three philosophers, doctors that really had influence on the Western, and there are others, of course, but the one that started and created the initial movement was Freud. And then there was Alfred, and then there was Frankl, Viktor Frankl. So Freud said that what motivates us when we are in a place, or when what motivates us are the desires. The desires are the ones, the animalistic expression of our soul, of our presence. Part of the soul is the nefesh. That's the nefesh. So the nefesh is where the liver is, and that is where all the desires, all the wants, the physical needs that are stored there. Okay? And he said this is what the man is being driven, motivated by. So Adler can say, what? You're making the man an animal, a person, an animal. No, what he said is that everybody comes with a sense of inferiority and looks for respect and to be recognized, a sense of inferiority, and that's what really motivates them. The third one, Franco, really and he was also a Holocaust survivor, and so he lived through the Holocaust with the intention that he has to live through to write his book. And all his family was evaporated and everything. But he said that really what motivated him is really the sense of meaning. The sense of meaning. Sense of something is so meaningful, something that has meaning. When we have meaning to our lives, when we know our calling, or when we have meaning, or when we have an intention or a goal. He, for example, had to survive the war to write the book. Right? That was his, so everything was there. And the thing is, so what do you say? Which one is which? Is this right? Is this right? Is this right? And the Torah says, no, all three are right. All three are right. Just you're looking at the whole jar from a different angle. One is looking from this side where the light comes in, so he sees the creases on the wood and everything. The other side, the other person says on the other side when there is no light, so he doesn't see very much. And the other person is from the top. And so everybody sees different, but they're all right. Why? Because Freud represents the nefesh, the animalistic expression of us, right? Where we have all our desires and everything around. That we are, addictions, all these kind of things. Then we have the feeling of inferiority, that feeling that Adler was talking about, right? Goes into here, into the heart area. And then there is the sense of meaning, making meaning. And that also goes into the process of how do we make meaning, right? How do we make meaning? It's like, what's the meaning of life, really? To in a way, or in many ways, or in all ways, to make meaning. And so, it took me a while to understand that. It took me a while. I remember years ago. It was like, and it's still a journey. It's still a journey. Everything that we are connected to, that we have vested, like this bottle of water, for example. Let's say it's a cup of coffee, and I got it, or something. It's a bottle, and somebody who comes from my country, from Israel, just comes to see here, sees the first time, and he says, "Wow, this bottle reminds me of when we were kids." And we're playing with these bottles, and suddenly he wanted this bottle because this represented his childhood, and he went through all this childhood with all these toys, and this was part of this. It's like, whatever prop it could be, right? And so, for me, it is just a bottle, right? A bottle that has a very, very essential, and I'm grateful for that. But for him, it means so much more. It means 30 years of looking for that bottle. So the point is that the connection that I have, the relationship that I have with whatever it is, or whoever that is a meaningful connection. I make meaning from that. It is like he made a whole different meaning out of this bottle for him, and I don't see it completely at all the same way, because I cannot have his experience. So how can I think that he's better than me, or I'm better than him? Because he's different. It was all different. So the nefesh is the Freud, the heart is the Adler, and the neshama, the meaning, is Frankel. And so we need all these three as part of the 5 parts of the soul. Our nefesh, our ruach, our neshama, chaya, yechida, is part of all of our creation. And this goes back to the talk that I had a few weeks ago about integration, about integrating everything and seeing how they all come together, and how are we with ourselves and how are we with others. And so the counting comes to remind us that we're all the same. We're all the same. And then there is the process of going through, coming to this understanding and desire of having this will, having this will to move things, because we are not many of us are using so much of our brain power. If we could harness everything, it was like, we could move mountains. So, what is meaningful to you? That is what drives you. That is the flame. That is the spark. So with this, have a wonderful Shabbat of a weekend of creating, of understanding how and feeling how you are, how you feel within you, how you feel inside. Feel that bubbling inside you, to create, to do, to be, to express, to be heard and to hear. Shabbat Shalom.